Hi everybody, welcome to the show. We call it shorthand, it's the Court of Public Opinion, but we call it COPO. Court of Public Opinion, COPO. Anyway, Facebook or podcast. We're not hard to find. You just go to or look for jeremycordo.com. Now that's how we have simplified it, thanks to Andy Martin. And he runs a fantastic, if ever you want to put a podcast up, he's the guy to talk to. He's fantastic. But it's there as jeremycordo.com. Everything. The new show, all the old shows, and coming up, I'm anticipating Friday, we will live stream, and it'll be a whole radio station, I think, with a whole lot of stuff.
And we need people to phone in.
Oh, well, we need people to phone in. That's the other thing. Now, I need to give you the phone number, don't I? I can do that. If you don't mind I didn't think of that, Pete, I'm sorry.
No, I can put it at the end of the...
Well, do you know the number?
No.
It's... If you just remember this, and what maybe we could do is you simply not text me, but as you message me here in the Court of Public Opinion on Facebook, you could message me with your phone number. If I give you mine, the number for the New Opinion line is 0491 65 68 60. So a snappy way of saying that is 0419 65 68 60. 0491 65 68 60. Now that'll be the number from Friday. Now, I've got no idea whether we'll get calls or we won't, but we'll have a whole show ready, waiting for you. If you want to join us, I hope you will. You would have heard, of course, the great Tony Bennett has died. I'll have some dates for you later before we say goodbye. And also, we'll tag this program and we'll tag our other shows with some of those commercials that we have received that you have very kindly sent me about The Voice. Quite frightening stuff. So that's coming up later, but just let me continue. Tony Bennett, great singer, great entertainer, a great artist as well, great painter, and a great age, 96. 96, bit frail towards the end, but still okay. Over 100 albums, dozens of Grammys. I lost track of how many Grammys he won. A wonderful talent, and on top of that, you see, a very, very nice man. Sinatra said he was the best singer in the world. And if Sinatra said that, it meant something. I'm sure he'll rest very easily. The late Bert Newton's birthday on the weekend sort of slipped by. School's back tomorrow? No, actually today. Yeah. If we have any kids listening or looking, I hope you had a good break. Parents will probably be very happy to pack you off with Vegemite sandwiches and without your telephone. Pete, times have changed since we went to school. God. A promotion to draw our attention to the importance of being an organ donor. That'll be on all week. Wouldn't hurt to run it all year, frankly. Don't take your organs to heaven. God knows we need them here. That's one of the best slogans ever, and well worth repeating. And you can do that through your Medicare card, or you can do it through your driver's license. Cost of living figures out on Thursday. This will be the quarterly figures, a much better snapshot than the monthly figures. These are the inflation figures, and will determine whether or not, largely, interest rates will go up next month, which is really basically only next week. I was predicting an uptick in unemployment As you would know by now, surprisingly, unemployment has fallen to 3.5%, with an estimated 33,000 new jobs discovered or created. I'm not sure actually how you create a job. A healthy economy creates a job. So it's down from 3.6 to 3.5, not earth-shattering, but on the surface, it's good news. But of course, more pressure on the Reserve Bank to lift interest rates. You see, you can't have an economy booming or getting along well, can you? It's all about slowing everything down. Even if it means putting people out of work, which I'm not in favour of. For the first time since the dollar was introduced back in 1966, which I remember well, the dollar and cents thing, I never quite understood the necessity to do it. But anyway, for the first time since the dollar was introduced, the amount of cash in circulation has fallen. Not just fallen quite dramatically. There's $1 billion, $1 billion less in circulation than 2 years ago. Now, that's not because we're tearing up the money and throwing it away. No, it's being withdrawn. This is real evidence that we are not moving, we are being pushed towards being a cashless society, which particularly will hurt elderly people and the regions, more than anyone else probably. But they clearly want us out of the banks and away from ATMs and away from money. Some banks don't even have cash on the premises. We're going to have to work and live and play and shop using digital currency. What do you think of that? Pete, do you resent it? Do you accept it? What do you do?
I resent it, totally.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. It's not that I go around with money in my pocket, but the point is I want to have the option. Anyway, message us, or come Friday you'll be able to ring us and say a lot about what you think. Not only about the stuff we're talking about, but the stuff that's on your mind. With the help of a compliant and under-researched media, the stories of a European heatwave, absolutely compelling, I don't deny it for a minute. But what caught my eye was, number one, they were talking about the temperature being over 40 degrees. Shock horror! Which we're quite familiar with and have been here in South Australia for many years. We get about 20 days every summer where it's uncomfortable. Temperatures can be well over 40 degrees. That's the way things are. But the other thing that stuck out in that story, the journalist doing the story said, it has been 50 years since it was as hot as this. 50 years ago it was just as hot. So it's not a record, is it? It's just the weather. If it has been as hot as this 50 years ago, it's not news, it's called life. Sorry. The weather is changing. We're coming out of an ice age. Oh, God, I get so tired of this rubbish. Now, I did tell you I was going to go over on the weekend, just past this educational story about universities, about the rebuild. That's the word, rebuild of higher education, announced last week by the Minister, Jason Clare. They want more Indigenous students. It would seem without any standards, hurdles, easy entry. Near as I can figure it, they want more people from disadvantaged and perhaps disabled backgrounds in universities. And I can understand what they're saying. It's good. It's very good. But students, regardless of the colour of their skin, their ability or disability, or their background, they have to rise to the occasion. You can't lower the standards of universities just because you want more diversity, more deserving students. You will get more students, yes, but will you get a better outcome? Everything should be judged by the outcome. And it's my experience, as it is with most people, the struggle to get to university, to suffer the setbacks, to survive, to fight another academic day, and yes, to fail. Yes, fail. It's all part of the preparation for which people go to university. Society has to believe that graduates have got there on their merits. They have not been given some kind of helping hand based on the colour of their skin or their impairment, just so they can say they graduated. If you don't graduate being worthy of graduation, what's the point? If you haven't really earned that degree, it means nothing. If you say, as the minister did, the old 50% failure score for exams doesn't apply to a certain group of people, it will apply to other students, able-bodied students, but the black and the disabled and the disadvantaged have a completely different scale, different judgment. You're going to destroy the value of a tertiary education. And you can't bloody well see that? A degree will mean absolutely nothing. How will we judge the value of our doctors, our lawyers, our engineers, our architects? We will have a degree of scepticism. As I've said to you often, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Jason Clare, Minister for Education, should know better than this. I'm sure he means well. The outcome of this can't be good. I wonder where the chancellors are and the vice-chancellors and the people who know far more about this sort of stuff than I do. Where are they? And where are they with their criticism of this government? We have to think about universities as places of excellence and discipline, meritocracies. You don't get there unless you're good, very good. You don't stay there unless you're even better. And you don't graduate unless you are terrific. Now, you undermine this and you will destroy the public perception, the value of higher education. With, of course, the best of intentions. Yes. You, Minister, you run the risk of destroying the thing you are trying to improve. Not everyone is meant to go to university. I wasn't, and I chose another way, happily. The minister who was at the press club putting meat on all these bones talked endlessly about fairness. Fairness. Minister, I'm sorry. I don't know what world you live in. Nothing is fair. Life isn't fair. Forget fair. Concentrate on tenacity, determination, a will to win, to overcome problems and setbacks and adversity, resilience. These are the things. These are the things that are also a very important part of education. And of course life, for which university is meant to be preparing people for. Have I got time for one more, Pete? this is from John Cleese. Someone, I can't remember, I'm sorry. Someone sent it to me. I love John Cleese. He's so irreverent. He says, I keep reading that film studios are contemplating replacing writers and actors by using artificial intelligence to mimic their talents. Surely it would be easier and more efficient to replace the executives since they have no talent at all. Problem fixed. Yes. Bring back Faulty Towers, that's all I can say. Could I leave you with a few dates, if I may? My eyes are getting bad, or the print's getting smaller, I'm not sure. Where are we? 25th, yeah. The first test tube baby born. Louise Joy to Gilbert and John Brown. Bristol Hospital in England. Caesarean section. Oldham General Hospital. Patrick Steptoe and Dr. R. Jeffrey Edwards. The baby was 5 pounds and 12 ounces. The very first test tube baby, 1978, on this day.
I'd worry about a doctor with a surname Steptoe, I think.
Now that was a different sort of program. You're thinking Steptoe and Son? Dear. No. I don't think even vaguely related. Football was, this is one for you, Pete. Football was first mentioned in an Australian newspaper. It was the privates in the barracks are in the habit of amusing themselves with a game of football. That was reported in the Sydney Monitor on this day in 1829. Gee whiz. I don't think it was Australian rules. Wouldn't have been Australian rules. The hovercraft made its first crossing of the English Channel from Dover to Calais in France in just over 2 hours. That was in 1959. Romper Room with Miss Michelle started on SAS Channel 10 in 1965. Soundtrack albums cost 52 shillings and sixpence. Steve Goodman. Pete, do you like Steve Goodman?
I don't know.
You don't know him?
No.
Oh,
Well,
the song I really remember most fondly is The Train They Call the City of New Orleans.
yeah, good song.
Lovely song. Beautiful song. I'm not sure what success he had in his life, but he was born on this day in 1948. I don't know if he's still around. Benito Mussolini resigned as Premier of Italy, and the fascist regime was abolished in 1943. They strung him up on a light pole. Politics is a rough game. Charles Mackintosh died near Glasgow, Scottish chemist, who developed and patented waterproof fabric in 1823. Anyway, he died in 1843. So the fabric was invented in 1823. He died in 1843. Hence the name of the Macintosh. I don't know that we hear a lot about a Macintosh these days, but when I was at school, all the kids, we all had a Macintosh. William Balderston died, 86 years of age, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Former chairman of the giant Philco Corporation, credited with the idea of putting radios in cars and radar units in ships and planes, 1983. And, one more, WikiLeaks leaked to the public more than 90,000 internal reports and memos and all sorts of stuff on Afghanistan. 2010, he's been in trouble ever since, and boy, are they keen to get him one way or the other. Now, I'll say goodbye and I'll remind you, no, I can't remind you of the telephone number, but
I'll put it at the end.
okay, we'll put the telephone number for you to dial up on Friday when we are going live streaming in the Court of Public Opinion, and I'll say goodbye with this, which is another one of those pieces that someone, I'm not sure, that some of them were sent to me anonymously, others were sent to me proudly signing off on them, but they're all quite pertinent to this thing called The Voice, and we must be acutely aware of what we are sailing into if these people continue with their mission. But the great mystery to me is, why would a government, if I can see it, and so many of you can see this dangerous thing called The Voice, which will do no good to anybody, divide, create a separate society based on colour, crazy. If we can see it, why can't the government? They stand indicted in my book. We'll talk tomorrow in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton and I will be back. Believe in yourself. Thank you for viewing, and thank you for listening if you're checking us out on a podcast. Bye for now.
The people who stand with me on this stage I regard as giants.
Thomas Mayo.
Thomas Mayo written a handbook called the Voice to Parliament Handbook. All the detail you need.
Thomas Mayo is a signatory to the Uluru Statement from the Heart, but was also entrusted with the physical document.
Mayo is part of the referendum working group. He
spent 18 months travelling around Australia to garner support for an Indigenous voice to Parliament.
And I tell you what, we are sick of governments not listening to our voice. We are going to use the rule book of the nation to force them.
There is nothing more powerful than building a First Nations voice, a black institution, a black political force to be reckoned with.
Keep going until we change the system, until we tear down the institutions that harm our people.
And also to pay respects to the elders of the Communist Party, who I think, without a doubt, have played a very important role in our activism.
You know, this is the first step. It's a vital step. Pay the rent, for example. You know, how do we do that in a way that is transparent and that it actually sees reparations and compensation to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people?
The power in the voice is that it creates the ability for First Nations to go forth with coherent positions on what legislation needs to be created, what legislation needs to be amended, and punish politicians that ignore our advice.
This is a modest request.
Authorised by Matthew Sheehan, Advance Australia, Canberra.